Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another hour here at the Golden Hour, a chance for you and I to be together doing something we want to do for 1 hour. Getting started a little bit late this morning, had other things I needed to do for the family, but I am here now, and I am still continuing to read the book Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And still toward the beginning of it, talking about our human evolution. And the part that I read yesterday was discussing what can we know about our ancient hunter-gatherer forager ancestors. Um, what can we know about their religious, political, war, peace behaviors? It's essentially impossible to reconstruct. Um, but we shouldn't dismiss the impact of these ancestors because of that. So it would be a mistake to conclude they were unimportant um, or insignificant just because we can't quite reconstruct a lot of the specifics of their life. So then he goes on to talk about how when we make it off the Afro-Asian landmass onto Australia, that we basically leave destruction in our wake. That there used to be these, like giant species of different animals, a lot of marsupial animals on uh, Australia, in Australia. And so we see sort of the destruction so much after Homo sapiens arrives. And he talks a little bit about um, how did we do that? We're just people with sort of Stone Age tools at our disposal. So what do we do? Um, and he talks about how hunting and the use of fire, and perhaps that coinciding with some climate change, contributed to so much ecological destruction. Um, and let me see if I can I'll look through what I underlined yesterday. Yeah, so war, what can we know? Not much about it. The curtain of silence. If the larger picture of ancient forager life is hard to reconstruct, particular events are largely irretrievable. This curtain of silence shrouds tens of thousands of years of history. Uh, I liked this. I underlined scholars tend to ask only those questions that they can reasonably expect to answer. I thought, well, that's a reasonable admission. But he said, yet it is vital to ask questions for which no answers are available. Um, because he says otherwise we might be tempted to dismiss 60,000 of 70,000 years of human history with the excuse that the people who lived back then did nothing of importance. So he's sort of making that distinction that just because something is inscrutable in one sense doesn't mean we shouldn't ask questions about it and think about it. The wandering bands of storytelling sapiens were the most important and most destructive force the animal kingdom had ever produced. So we get out of the Afro-Asian landmass. The journey of the first humans to Australia is one of the most important events in history, at least as important as Columbus's journey to America or the Apollo expedition to the moon. Apollo 11 expedition to the moon. It was the first time any. Is that right? It's in Roman numerals, so it's making me doubt if it's Apollo 2 or Apollo 11. That's ridiculous. I think it's Apollo 11, but um, it was the first time any human had managed to leave the Afro-Asian ecological system. Indeed, the first time any large terrestrial mammal had managed to cross from Afro-Asia to Australia. Of even greater importance was what the human pioneers did in this new world. The moment the first hunter-gatherer set foot on an Australian beach was the moment that Homo sapiens climbed to the top rung in the food chain on a particular landmass, and thereafter became the deadliest species in the annals of planet Earth. Hold on. We must correct this gap in my knowledge immediately. Which Apollo mission? Okay, Apollo 11. It just looked like Roman numerals, and I thought, am I missing something? Good. Okay, so I want to get that right. So, the settlers of Australia, or more accurately, its conquerors, didn't just adapt, they transformed the Australian ecosystem beyond recognition. Um, and again, I'm skipping around reading what I've underlined. It says within a few thousand years, virtually all of these giants vanished, talking about the other large species there. Of the 24 Australian animal species weighing 100 pounds or more, 23 became extinct. A large number of smaller species also disappeared. Excuse me. Food chains throughout the entire Australian ecosystem were broken and rearranged. It was the most important transformation of the Australian ecosystem for millions of years. Was it all the fault of Homo sapiens? So he's saying, okay, we see that all this transformation happened. Is it fair to link that to the arrival of Homo sapiens? And he's saying, yeah, like, there's a couple reasons why we think that's fair. Um, so yeah, that's when you talked about hunting. So the idea that when we evolved sort of in step in the same time frame as the animals on the Afro-Asian landmass, the animals on the landmass also had time to evolve to us. But when we show up in Australia, not looking particularly physically menacing, the other animals there don't really have a reason to fear us, and then we can sneak up on them and hunt them. So that sort of mismatch in not evolving together led to hunting being, a huge thing, a huge force of destruction. Because it said these animals had to evolve a fear of humankind, but before they could do so, they were gone. The second explanation is that by the time sapiens reached Australia, they had already mastered fire agriculture, so we can use fire to our advantage to clear brush and stuff out of our way, again, making it easier to hunt game. Excuse me. And also changing the environment, from forest to grassland or things like that. A third explanation agrees that hunting and fire agriculture played a significant role in the extinction, but emphasizes that we can't completely ignore the role of climate. And then he says, it is hard to find a good survival strategy that will work simultaneously against multiple threats. And that just sort of made me think how that's true in our individual lives as well. That how many different forces working against someone can someone adapt to. So I just kind of thought that was kind of fascinating to apply to our individual lives, going, yeah, if you have, let's say like three major sort of factors against you, against something you're trying to progress in, it's really hard to fight a battle on a lot of fronts, kind of thing. Anyway, so that's where I am. And yeah, we'll keep reading and keep talking about this book. Looks like I can be on for at least 30 more minutes, so I will reset our timer and we'll get started. Katie, she's about to knock over where the camera is. Katie. Okay, I see our time is up. I was going down a rabbit trail on the internet there about the book Sapiens and other world leaders that it has impacted. I think this book is so important. It touches on so many things I've thought over many years. Um, and I just think it's vital, vital, thought provoking information. So I'm about to get into the chapter on the agricultural revolution. Um, yeah, and I remember when I sort of read this book before when I wasn't kind of like studying it as much, or I read part of this book before. Um, yeah, it just brings up so many other thoughts um, about what we're doing uh, as humans and now as industrialists and yeah, things like that. So it's such a moving tale. I'm glad I'm reading it. We're reading it. You're learning about it along with me. So that is all for today. I should be back at the normal time of 9:45 a.m. Central Standard Time in the United States tomorrow. But if you are continuing to study, feel free to watch any of my other streams. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day and hope to see you then. Bye bye.